Hey, what's up guys? My name is Steve. Thank you for stopping by my channel. I'm just an American guy on a journey to discover my British and Irish ancestry. Today I thought we would react to what powers does the Queen of England actually have? This has been requested quite a bit in the comments section, and I honestly don't know. And I'm sure now that Charles is king, I'm guessing the same powers are still in effect for him as well. If anything has changed, please let me know in the comment section. But yeah, I don't really know. I've got a very basic understanding of what the power of the queen or king is. So this should be interesting to really understand what power they have. Let's check this out.
Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching the Today I Found Our YouTube channel, and in the video today we're looking at what powers the Queen of England actually has. And just before we get started, I do want to say that this video is brought to you by TunnelBear. TunnelBear is a simple privacy app that makes it easy to enjoy a more open internet. It's available for iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac. Start your free trial today at tunnelbear.com/brainfood. So a short while ago, we put out a video about the fact that Queen Elizabeth II neither needs a passport nor a driving license.
I knew that on one of the other videos.
Of British law. But
sure.
What other powers does the Queen of many titles have, and what could she theoretically do if she decided to flex the full might of the authority that she wields?
Well, before he goes on, I want to say I believe she has control over the military, and obviously she has the ability to submit passports and driver's licenses to people. And I believe she has to approve laws. From what I understand, she has to approve laws that are passed through Parliament. But outside of those few things that I believe are accurate, I really don't know.
As it turns out, thanks to the royal prerogative, a terrifying amount, if she really felt like it, or at least that's assuming Parliament went by the letter of the law and that the people didn't decide to stage a small revolt.
That's
in reality, true. The Queen rarely exerts even a fraction of the power that she theoretically wields, as it's kept in check by the only person in the UK who can tell her what to do, and that's herself. This is very much a calculated move on her part in order to stay in the good graces of her subjects. She also voluntarily pays her taxes, even though she's not technically obligated to, and that helps with people's opinion of her.
By the way, there's something I've wondered, like how's the queen or the king earn an income? Like who are they paid by? Is it by taxpayers, or is it they own a bunch of property and stuff passed down through family that they ended up getting lots of rental income or something like that? I really don't have a clue where the income exactly comes from.
Not only does she avoid openly flexing her political might, she also tends to keep her opinions outside of the public sphere. As historian Frank Prohaska notes, the real secret of royal influence is saying nothing. And anything the Queen does say publicly is pretty anodyne. The minute a monarch or many of the royals say anything remotely political or opinionated, they alienate people and they lose some power. This silence played a large part in how the British monarchy survived post-World War I when other European royal families didn't. In fact, for nearly 2 decades now, the monarchy has regularly had polls run and focus groups put together to keep track of how the general public feels about them
70 or 80%,
various actions.
I believe.
They also have on payroll individuals whose job it is to ensure the Queen stays in the public eye and in a way that is most likely to endear her to her subjects. Similar to politicians who rely on the voting public, with each public change she presents, right down to the carrying of a cell phone or not, carefully calculated in terms of the impact it might have. While this may seem only self-serving, the Queen has a very lengthy track record as an admirable public servant, and is also acutely aware that she is a prominent public face representing her subjects, so is keen on avoiding being viewed in a bad light, lest she in turn paints them in a bad light by her actions. As she noted at the tender age of 21 in a speech to the Commonwealth she gave on her birthday, "I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted
I almost
to your
have
service
that
and
memorized at this
of our
point.
great imperial family to which we all belong." Surprisingly, for many years, the full extent of exactly what powers the Queen handed off to the government, but technically retained, weren't publicly known. That is, until 2003, when the government released a partial list of the things it can do on the Queen's behalf. For the most part, the list confirms that the government could do things to save the Queen time, such as issue or revoke passports, which simply wouldn't be a feasible thing to be the sole prerogative of the Crown in a modern society.
That's true.
However, some were actually slightly worried by some of the things she could do, like declare war, which under rules of royal prerogative can be done without consulting Parliament. On top of that, the Queen is totally immune from prosecution.
Wow, that's a little bit different from the president in America, because he technically isn't supposed to be able to declare war without Congress approval. So she could declare war without Parliament's approval technically, or now King Charles could declare war without Parliament's approval. Wow.
And is considered above the law in the UK. And further, as a head of state, she
Wow.
also enjoys
So she's-
diplomatic immunity in any foreign country she happens to visit. As
Wow.
such, she could commit any crime conceivable anywhere on Earth, at least as the law currently stands, and suffer no legal
Wow.
consequences for doing so. However, as
Wait. So she could have, I mean, I guess King Charles now could technically go anywhere. Not saying they would. I wouldn't expect them to go and commit some kind of crazy crime, but like they could go and like commit a horrible crime and literally just be able to walk away from it. Wow. Now, granted, I think, does the public, especially if they did something in Britain, I mean, I'm guessing the public may not allow them to get away with it, but wow. Because I've heard of in the past, kings and queens being, harmed or killed by citizens because of revolt or uprising or whatnot. I don't really know a lot about that type of history, really, stuff I'm going to look into, but that's really interesting. Wow.
with everything else, she's generally exceptionally careful to ensure that she doesn't break any laws. Of course, what she does in private is completely her own affair, despite her prominent political position, as she is exempt from freedom of information requests. So, moving on, because technically speaking, the people of Britain are not citizens but subjects of the monarch, she could have anyone she wanted arrested and presumably seize their property or land for the crown. Speaking of which, the Queen owns all of the seabeds around the UK and can commandeer any ship found in British waters for service to the realm.
Seriously? Wow.
Oddly enough, she also has first dibs on any whales that wash up on shore. The Queen could also administer any manner of punishment to an individual who offended or otherwise displeased her, as the crown has prerogative power to keep the peace within the realm. And since she's immune from prosecution, nobody could really do anything if this punishment wasn't entirely within the scope of the law.
Wow. So basically she could have, or King Charles in this case, could technically not like somebody and be like, you know, I'm gonna punish them like with some kind of crazy life sentence in prison or something like that. And technically the police, as long as they went along with it, there's nothing anyone could do about. Wow. That is crazy. Wow. I had no idea they had this amount of power. Wow.
If the government tried to stop her, the Queen could decimate the British political landscape by dissolving Parliament and appointing anyone she felt like as Prime Minister.
She could dissolve Parliament?
It's the Queen's duty to appoint the Prime Minister, and she could, in theory, appoint anyone she wanted to the position, regardless of the way the British public voted in an election. On top of that, in the event the Queen didn't like the outcome of an election, for instance, if she didn't like the replacement Parliament members that were voted in, she could just call for another one using royal prerogative until she got the Parliament she wanted. Not that she'd need to, because if she really wanted, she'd just bring in the army to keep everyone in line. But how does that work? How does she control the army? Well, that's because the Queen is also the commander-in-chief of the entire British military, with every officer, soldier, sailor, and pilot swearing allegiance to the crown and nobody else. They're not called Her Majesty's Armed Forces for nothing. Being considered the ultimate authority on all British military matters, the Queen could authorize a nuclear strike on France or make North Korea an ally, as she has the power to declare both war and peace with foreign nations. As for laws, well, technically the Queen can't create new laws, she can only sign them into law after they've been decided upon by Parliament. In fact, her royal assent is required to make the law official after being passed by Parliament.
We learned that last
she
video,
could appoint
the other
ministers
video.
who'd make any laws she wanted a reality and then just sign them into law that way. Beyond royal assent, there's also the Queen's consent, which requires she give her consent before any law that affects the interests of the monarchy can even be discussed at all in Parliament.
Oh,
she
wow.
actually has used this power before, such as in 1999 when she refused to allow the discussion of a bill that would have given Parliament power to authorize military strikes in Iraq instead of needing her authorization. So, well, that's all on the political side, but it doesn't stop here. The Queen technically has a sort of power not only over her subjects' physical beings, but also their souls. Well, how? Well, that's because she's also the head of the Church of England, including having the power to appoint archbishops and power over many other such matters concerning the Church. As for most of these powers that technically allow her to rule with an iron fist, as previously mentioned, the Queen is hesitant to ever use them in such a way that would displease her subjects, and certainly isn't about to disregard their representatives in Parliament. However, these powers still exist for a variety of reasons, including potentially being needed in times of extreme crisis. That said, just because she isn't in the practice of exercising her powers against the will of the people, it doesn't mean she isn't occasionally an active political powerhouse in private. Extremely well respected and known worldwide with the ability to bend the ear of most heads of state, the influence the Queen wields is difficult to quantify, but, as noted in an article discussing why the BBC named the Queen the most powerful woman in the world in their list of 100 most powerful women, Her Majesty's power is more about influence. A discreet nod of the head, a polite word in the ear of a Prime Minister at their weekly meeting, or a strategic patronage of a cause being overlooked by the government is how she can indirectly affect our world without us even knowing. Well, to conclude, the Queen has many powers she could theoretically legally use to her own ends unless her subjects and Parliament simply decided to stage a revolution. However, she generally avoids doing anything overt that might upset her subjects and otherwise simply works in the background, more or less in an advisory role when she feels there is a need. So I really hope you enjoyed that video now.
Wow. She has so much more power than I ever thought possible. I had no idea. I thought she was kind of like more of a figurehead and didn't really have, well, that much authority and power. I knew she was the head of the military, but I didn't really realize that she could technically, for example, call for a new election until she got the people in office that she wanted in office. She could stop laws from even being discussed if they were going to affect the monarchy in any way. She could technically commit any crime and get away with it, except the British people probably wouldn't allow her to, get away with it. Some big crimes. They would probably revolt at some point, I'm guessing. But still, and owns the waters around Britain. Wow, that's just amazing. I never knew it. I never knew she had that much power. So literally she was technically, and now King Charles, I'm guessing, are technically, are they the most powerful? Was the Queen the most powerful woman in the world when she was alive? Is King Charles the most powerful man in the entire world right now? I mean, considering one man can call for war, can commit any crime and get away with it, owns probably, they didn't go into detail of how much land they own, but considering they own the waters around Britain, I'm guessing quite a bit of land, as well. Do they actually technically own the UK itself and other countries that are within the Commonwealth? But this makes me believe that possibly that they literally, the King or Queen of England, whoever that is at the time, could very well be the most powerful person in the world while they're alive. Wow. That's something I did not know. I assumed Like I said, I assumed that they were kind of had power, obviously, had to technically sign off laws, but I felt like it was more some ceremonial power than actual authority that they had. Wow. So it's basically the queen kept herself restrained for all those years. That shows me why, one of the reasons why the British people had so much respect for her. She had the ability to use all this authority for herself and her family. And granted, I don't know if she ever used that authority for herself and her family, but from what I understand, it doesn't seem like she went to extremes with that. Most people in that position of power would have a hard time. Like, you take the average person off the street, you put them in that position of power that the Queen or King of England has, and you're going to see someone most likely commit atrocities, commit crimes, and because I don't think a lot of people would be able to restrain themselves when they all of a sudden had free reign to show their power at any given moment. And that takes someone with a good temperament to be queen or king. So what do you guys think is going to happen with Charles now? Do you think he's going to have the same temperament of his mother? Is he going to keep his power in check? And like I said at the beginning of this video, King Charles will have the same powers as the Queen did, correct? I mean, I don't think that would change that much. I think when she passed away, he took all her power over. And so he does have the authority to do all the things that were said in this video. So I can now see why who the Queen is and who the King is a major deal. It's a big deal. Much bigger deal than I thought it was. Because like I said, I thought they were more of a figurehead. But the fact they have this much power, you definitely want someone in there who is going to keep their own power in check, because they're literally the only people that cannot keep their power in check. No one is over them. So, I guess the British people technically do, because they know the king or queen knows that there could be a revolt and they don't want to see that happen. So that kind of keeps their power in check. But still, considering this one person controls the entire military and so much land and wealth and government. Wow. What else is there to say? That is amazing. Didn't know. This was a great video. I had no idea about quite a bit of this stuff. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this reaction. Please click that like button. Feel free to leave your comments if you want to suggest something else for me to watch in the future, or if you want to add something to this video. Did it miss something, or did it get something wrong? Also, please click that subscribe button to join me on my journey to continue discovering my British and Irish ancestry. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Until next time, peace.